President Jacob Zuma meets with KwaZulu-Natal Induna to discuss their unpaid salaries. This is eNews Direct Weekend Edition. Good evening, I'm Robin Smith.
And I'm Brandon Barches. You can comment on any of our stories by following us on Facebook and Twitter at eNews Direct.
Or you can check our content on our website at eNCA.com/direct. Well, the last day of voter registration today has again been disrupted in at least 2 areas in Johannesburg. There have been problems in Denver as well as the Kapok informal settlement at Orange Farm.
This community is making sure that no voter registration takes place here. Residents from this Orange Farm informal settlement are unhappy with the lack of service delivery. They say there's no need to register and demanded that IEC officials leave.
We have registered and voted before. We see no change. We are just like animals.
They've been promising us. For 20 years, I was not even born. I'm 18 years old now, and still we are living in shacks.
While in Denver, this IEC official says an upset resident hit her with a rock. Residents are refusing to register as they are unhappy with the new boundary demarcation. ANC leaders who visited the area faced tough questions.
They have the point that the way this ward was demarcated doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to us too. Yes. But it doesn't mean they must stop those who want to register. We came across people here who were saying they are afraid to register because they have been stopped.
At the Diepkloof hostel, the ANC dismissed IFP claims that it was busing people in from other areas to register here. The party says the claim is an attempt to discredit it, and the area is one of its strongholds. Malungelo Pui, Johannesburg.
Well, registration finally got underway at Vonderkorp near Marikana in the northwest. IEC officials were forced to shut down 4 voting stations yesterday after angry residents protested against unemployment in the area. Service delivery protests have impacted negatively on registration in several provinces, including Limpopo, Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal.
This voting station in Vonderkorp has been processing registrations all day. Residents update their details as police keep a close watch. Registration was interrupted after IEC officials were chased out by a group of angry residents. They demanded that job creation projects promised by the municipality be implemented immediately. Officials from the mayor's office have promised to meet concerned residents and implement a detailed jobs plan in the coming week. And they are liaising with local politicians from the EFF, UDM and ANC.
We are going to sit with this particular leadership of the Unemployment Forum, identify needs, come up with quick wins in order to make some necessary interventions.
But some of the opposition are not convinced.
We don't want desperate unemployed people to be used. We don't want promises to be made if they are not going to be fulfilled.
Residents of Vonderkorp and Marikana are trying to rebuild their communities after 44 people were killed in strike-related violence in August 2012. The area surrounding Lonmin mines is largely undeveloped and poverty and unemployment are rife. Religious leaders like Apostle Kukumana are working closely with disgruntled residents trying to keep the peace.
I'm hopeful things are changing in Vonderkorp for better. That is why even yesterday there was no bloodshed.
At the same time, police say they'll keep a close watch until the situation has stabilized. Pagamile Hlubi, Vonderkorp, Northwest.
The Independent Electoral Commission is tallying its numbers after the first voter registration weekend ahead of election 2016. It was hoping to add 1 million new names to the voters' roll, but the Commission's efforts have not been helped by the growing disillusionment many feel towards the country's political system and leaders across the board.
This voting station in Rosebank, Johannesburg, has seen a steady flow of eligible voters. But this may be the exception rather than the norm. Many polling stations across the country had to live with an intermittent trickle of potential voters. Citizens like Johannesburg hairstylist Karabo Morwele had better things to do with their time than register to vote.
For me personally, I don't see any point because I don't benefit anyhow from voting. You know what I mean? There's nothing that the government does for me, so I don't have to do anything for the government.
But you could vote for the opposition.
I think they are the same.
A sense of disillusionment shared by many who opt out of the electoral process.
I don't feel like there's good options at the moment, so I'm not really sure who I would vote for.
A 74% turnout in 2014 means South Africa is actually not doing too badly compared to other developing countries. And in fact, turnout for local government polls is on the rise. But officials are still unhappy that 9 million eligible voters, 6 million of whom are under the age of 35, remain unregistered.
Of course, we would be delighted if there are 9 million people out there. We want all of them out, out there to register with us. But historically, we know that, participation in elections in this country, it's a voluntary process. It's not compulsory.
The positive flip side is that IEC figures show that once registered, young South Africans actually turn up in large numbers on voting day. So the key is to convince the skeptics that their vote remains their voice. And in this democracy, that voice really is power. Thulasizwe Semelane, Johannesburg.
In other news, President Jacob Zuma is meeting with KwaZulu-Natal Induna in Durban. They're upset that their promised salaries have not been paid. More than 3,000 community headmen are owed about 84,000 rand. Last year, the president announced that salaries will be paid. The meeting comes after the izinduna threatened to disrupt the weekend's voter registration. Although the meeting is private, it is believed the izinduna said they are unhappy with how the province is handling the matter. The KZN government says it can't afford the extra 200 million rand that has not been budgeted for. Other provinces are already paying the salaries, but KwaZulu-Natal claims it has the most izinduna.
It's not an easy matter because it involves finances at a time when we are facing serious budgetary constraints in the country and the province.
More than 43 tons of dead fish are being removed from lakes and rivers in Cape Town's southern suburbs. All are the same species of carp. It's believed they've been deprived of oxygen, but the city's Environmental Resources Unit says it is a natural phenomenon.
Municipal workers are having a busy weekend clearing away thousands of dead fish. Residents near Zekoflei and Zandvlei first sounded the alarm. Many have taken to social media to voice their fears. Some believe pollution is to blame. But city officials say while it may look alarming, the deaths are a natural event and have been caused by a combination of factors.
What you have is you've got lower water levels coupled with hot weather or extreme weather, which then causes algal blooms to be more prolific in the systems at this time of the year. When the algae blooms, it dies off, and then those decomposes or bacteria takes the oxygen out of the water.
There have been 4 similar occurrences in the past 2 years. Tests show that the water is not contaminated and only the carp have been affected. But people are being warned not to eat the dead fish.
A lot of the fish only surfaces after 2 days of already being dead. So it's quite foul smelling, it's not pleasant, very slimy, it's not attractive to take the fish in any case, but we still advise people not to take the fish.
Cleanup operations are set to continue until Wednesday. Bonga Dlulane, Zekoflei in Cape Town.
A Johannesburg woman battling to reconcile her calling as a Sangoma with her faith as a Christian has documented her struggle in a new book. Voices of Jesus and Ancestors is about reconciling two powerful belief systems.
Tirelo Ole Makelidisa is a devout Christian. She credits her faith for steering her on the right path. But it's when she hears voices and has prophetic visions that her faith wavers.
It's a very serious struggle, because how do you go to someone when most of the people are so Christian in this country? How do you even know that these voices are from either God or from your ancestors? So I found myself caught up between this conundrum.
Makeladisa's mother was a Sangoma. She recalls the stigma that came with her calling when Makelidisa was growing up.
I am born with it. So what are you trying to tell me about me? What are you saying about my family and my ancestors? Are you telling me that I'm born of demons?
A retired Methodist minister says this stigma is fueled by some religious leaders who tend to demonize African culture.
Some of the religious leadership that does not assist people to think things through in such a way that people must understand that if it is not your calling, fine, it is not your calling. Do something else.
Mabuza says spirituality is a deeply personal journey. Even though Makelidisa has accepted her calling, she's still not able to submit herself for Sangoma training. She is still grappling with how best to balance her beliefs, but says that writing about her journey has eased some of her pain. Narissa Subramani, Johannesburg.
And turning now to news from around the world, Islamic State has claimed responsibility for a massive suicide attack in Iraq. At least 60 people have been killed, with 70 more injured. A fuel tanker packed with explosives hit a checkpoint at the city of Hilla, south of Baghdad. The checkpoint, a nearby police station, cars as well as some houses were destroyed. Polls have opened in Benin's presidential election that's been contested by 33 candidates. Thomas Boniyati is stepping down after serving 2 terms. The ruling party's candidate is Prime Minister Lionel Senzu, who used to head France's largest investment bank. The election was delayed after problems with distributing polling cards, which persisted until the day before the vote. And in Northern Ireland, a pensioner and a teenager are facing a string of charges after allegedly going for a joyride in a fire engine. The fire engine ploughed into several cars before crashing into a row of terraced houses. There were no reports of injuries. Well, for these stories and more, you can go to eNCA.com/direct, or you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at eNews Direct. After the break, in news on a lighter note, a contest where blowing your own horn is the stuff of legends. Welcome back. A conch seashell blowing battle in Florida saw about 30 contestants competing against each other to take the bragging rights. Conch blowing goes back to the 1800s, when sailors salvaging shipwrecks used the seashells to call out for attention.
This year, children and adults participated and were judged on quality, duration, loudness and novelty of the sounds they made. The giant seashell is so ingrained in the local culture in Key West that it's even unofficially known as the Conch Republic.
And one of the most challenging and extreme races gets underway in Alaska shortly.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! They are the world's greatest dog mushers and their team of sled dogs. This is identical.
Mushers and dog teams took part in the ceremonial run past in Anchorage yesterday. 85 mushers from around the world, with teams of 16 dogs each, will compete for the 44th Iditarod Trail Dog Sled Race.
Well, the extreme test of endurance will see competitors take between 8 and 10 days to travel more than 1,500 kilometers across Alaska's wilderness. They need to do more than 100 kilometers a day, facing biting winds and freezing temperatures.
The race commemorates the delivery of life-saving diphtheria vaccine by a sled dog team in 1925.
Still ahead, your detailed weather forecast for the start of the week.
A cold front moves in over the southwestern part of South Africa overnight, bringing in rainfall with it. It then spreads a chance of rain over the southern part of the country and cools things off in the west. Ahead of that front, a trough brings in thunderstorms across South Africa's interior, with a cloudy and wet day for the Eastern Cape, but things remain dry in the northeast with another sizzling hot day expected in the Lowveld, as well as for KwaZulu-Natal. Here's that scorching weather for KZN at the start of the work week, with highs in the middle and upper 30s, partly cloudy and dry for the majority of the province, other than a few thundershowers over the extreme southern parts. Scattered to widespread thunderstorms are expected throughout the Eastern Cape, with a cooler day, particularly over the western parts. We're also expecting cooler weather for the Western Cape, mostly cloudy with the possibility of rainfall, and we'll see most of that rain in the morning in the southwest, and a mild afternoon for Cape Town at 23 degrees. A cooler day throughout the Northern Cape, dry over the western parts, with that band of thunderstorms starting to move eastward, extending all the way through to the western part of the Free State. You'll see a dry forecast over the eastern parts though, and in the northwest we're forecasting thundershowers for Vryburg at 33 degrees, but with a partly cloudy and hot day for the rest of the province. Things remain dry in Limpopo, but sizzling hot, particularly for the Lowveld, with highs into the low 40s, 33 degrees and partly cloudy for Polokwane, 35 for Bombela, at toasty 42 as we head towards Gukuza, and a mostly sunny and hot day for the Mpumalanga Highveld, with highs in the low 30s. Things remain partly cloudy and dry for Gauteng on Monday, 35 degrees for Pretoria, with the rest of those highs peaking in the low 30s. On Tuesday, we're expecting rainfall over the southern part of South Africa. Things remain sizzling hot for Bombela, but with thundershowers starting to move in over the northeastern and eastern parts. And then on Wednesday, you'll see most of that thunderstorm activity over the northeastern and eastern part of South Africa, with a cooler day in the forecast, and things dry out and start to warm up in the west. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Have a lovely week.
A quick recap of our top stories. More disruptions on the last day of voter registrations. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
Up next, How I Met Your Mother.
You can email us on enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
Or chat to us on Twitter and Facebook at eNews Direct.
Till next time, take care.